All right, we're on to step 3, mutual acceptance. Let's talk about the basics, offer forms, offer elements, and then writing a winning offer so you can get the house. So essentially, here are the steps to expect. You as the buyer are going to submit the offer, the seller might accept it or they might counteroffer. You can either counteroffer back, rebuttal, or you can accept the terms as is, or you can walk away. Then you both sign on the mutual terms. This is why it's called mutual acceptance, because you both mutually agreed that these are the terms of the home purchase. And then we'll get into step 4, 5, and 6, which is inspection, escrow, underwriting, signing, and closing. And there are 2 different types of offer review timelines. So this is where the offer gets sent from the buyer to the seller, and the seller can either have a rolling basis offer review where they're just going to, the selling agent is going to review them with their seller on a rolling basis, just kind of day by day, or they're gonna have a deadline and say, all right, all buying agents get your offers in by Tuesday because we launched on Thursday and we had an open house over the weekend, and so everybody get your offers in on Tuesday. I'm gonna show them to my client that night and then we'll let you know Wednesday. All right, offer forms. So I included in my guide all of Washington's forms. So this is gonna be different state by state, but they're probably gonna be the same elements included in all. So first, there's the purchase and sale agreement. So this is going to say, this is the house, these are the people involved, here are the things that should be included in the house, washer, dryer, a microwave should be left, all of like the elements of the property itself, the tax IDs, the parcel numbers, square footage. And then you're going to have something about financing, saying how is the buyer going to finance this purchase. You're also going to have forms of the seller's disclosures. The seller is saying, here's everything we know about the house, and then the buyer's going to agree to accept that they know all of the elements that the seller shared with them, and that they can't go back to the seller later and say, hey, you didn't tell us this, and the seller will say, we left it in the seller's disclosure, so everybody signs on that. There are optional clauses related to the contract, utilities are discussed, title is discussed, and inspection. So there will be a form for title that will say, here's how we're going to transfer title from the seller to the buyer, and then there will be a form for inspection where the buyer will say, we would like to do an inspection. We are asking for 5 days to do the inspection, and then we'll come back to you and ask for potential concessions if there's something about the house that we didn't love. As a buyer, you have the option to walk away from the property if during inspection you find like there's termites or the foundation is shot and we just can't afford this house anymore. You can walk away, you get your earnest money back, but including all of these contingencies into your offer allows the buyers more leverage. It depends on if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, whether you can win. We'll talk about that in a second. Offer elements. So included in your offer, under all of these forms that we just discussed, you're gonna have the price, the funding type, are you getting a loan, do you have cash, well, how much earnest money you're going to leave. Earnest money is a little bit interesting. It's kind of like a flex to say like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna give you generally 1 to 5% of the purchase price right now, and it's going to be on the line during this mutual process, and it's actually going to be applied to the equity that you have in the home thereafter once the property is closed. But it really shows the seller, hey, I'm good for this, I've got the money, we're really wanting this house, I'm wanting to go through with this. It's like a little bit of a retainer for the seller taking their home off of the market, because if they have to put it back on, it's gonna look a little bit fishy to everybody of like, oh, why didn't your house close? Was something wrong with it? So earnest money is necessary, and then you get to add in your contingencies. Buyers can essentially waive certain protections in the buying process to increase your offer's competitiveness, and most contingencies include a stipulation that if you include the contingency in the offer, the buyers will get their earnest money back if you have to pull out based on one of those contingencies. For example, inspection contingency. You can go inspect the house. If you include an inspection contingency, the buyer can go inspect the house, they can get an inspection report back, and then they can determine whether they still want to go through with the sale or not based on how the inspection came back to them. So if you don't include this contingency, you waive this contingency, then you do not have this protection as a buyer. So there's a link to common contingencies explained. It depends on if it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. on how you're going to win. So the next 2 pages are writing a winning offer in a seller's market and writing a winning offer in a buyer's market. It's really